So welcome everybody. I'm Michelle Atlas, and from wherever you are watching, I'm so happy to be here with you today. So today's training is called Crack Your Money Code from the Inside Out. And for those of you who don't know me or don't know me yet, I empower female entrepreneurs and professional women to reclaim their self-trust and their intuition so they can become the authority in their own life, really begin living as their own wise guide, and ultimately create incredible impact and sustainable income and deep fulfillment during these incredible times of wild change in particular. So today we're going to be talking about the psychology of money. It's a little bit different. So jumping right in, you are probably reeling from the kinds of, if you are an entrepreneur in particular, from the kinds of changes that we have all been navigating most recently. And you might be wondering, more than wondering, how the economy, this incredibly changing, unpredictable economy, is going to affect your future. And you might also be wondering if the work that you've always done in the way that you've always done it is going to be palatable or affordable to your ideal clients, the people that you've always worked with. So we're going to be addressing all of that and a whole lot more in this training. I'm going to give you some grounding first in how our emotional relationship to money impacts our financial results and everything else for that matter. And then I'm going to be going into a detailed description or as much of a detailed description as I can within the parameters, the container that we have here in this training of each of the 8 money archetypes, so you can listen up for yours and learn something about yourself today in a very personalized kind of way. So strategy, what happens for most of us when we want to empower our relationship to money is that we go to strategies, right? We start to read books by all the great money gurus, and there are many of them. And or we start to kind of look up things online, and somebody tells us that this is the way that you improve your money management skills. This is the way you grow your money, etc. And while practical tips and tools are crucial and very important, they alone will not create sustainable change in your relationship to money. And that is because, I don't know if you've heard the expression, money is 90% emotion and 10% math, right? So if you think of a pie chart, 10% is going to be a very skinny slice of the pie and 90% is going to be the whole rest. So if our relationship to money, which ultimately produces our money results, is 90% emotion and 10% math, and we're focusing all of our efforts to change our relationship to money on the math piece, need I say more? We're missing a huge, huge chunk, a huge powerful chunk of what produces financial results that's sort of hidden from us most of the time, right? Living in that emotional, often unconscious space. And so this is a very powerful piece of information to understand, and we're going to talk about how we can sort of enter that huge hidden realm to uncover what's going on there, so that it's in order to truly empower ourselves to make change, to create change. So money is neutral. I'm going to throw that idea out there as well. Money is neutral. That might be a new concept. It is we who superimpose the meanings onto money. We're the ones who assign all these different meanings to money. So what do I mean by that? So, for example, a lot of spiritual folks, which I am the poster girl for, and in the past I may have had some of this kind of limited understanding as well, but I have a lot of friends in my community. I hear saying things like money shouldn't matter, like, right, money's not really important. If you're too focused on money, that means you're selfish or you're materialistic, or negative things like that, negative beliefs like that. So those are some of the many, many stories that we might be assigning to money, which is neutral, that we place on money. Our connection to money is a relationship. And like any other relationship, how available we are, how respectful we are how we're treating that entity is going to profoundly impact the results that the synergy between us and that entity produces. So my friends who say that money shouldn't matter have no money. Is that a surprise? If you were to say you don't matter, you shouldn't matter, to a friend, to your partner, to another person, would they be magnetized to hang around you? Would they be attracted to being with you? Would they love being in your company? Probably not, right? If you said, hey, being with you, just feels like a selfish, indulgent thing, would they be drawn to you? So at this point, I'm going to keep going in the service of time, but I want to encourage you to think and reflect, maybe write down so you can journal later. What is your relationship to money? Just jot down when you do reflect on it. Jot down a couple, and maybe wait to do it so that you can stay with me right now. I'd rather that you stay with me and reflect a little bit later. But you want to write down the first few words that come to mind. Is it an adversarial relationship? Is it a deeply trusting relationship? Is it full of respect and love, or is it fear-based? Really important to understand this is a living relationship and to think of it no differently than any of your other relationships. I'm going to take a sip of water. So neuroscience tells us that, so when we think about where do these money stories come from, right? Where do all of these beliefs and ideas and narratives that we superimpose onto money come from? And neuroscience tells us basically that, from birth and probably even before, while we're in the womb, until around age 7 or 8, we're receiving massive amounts of messaging every day from family, peers, faith communities, neighbors, friends, schools, everywhere. And a lot of that messaging has to do indirectly or directly with money, particularly from birth or pre-birth until age 3. We are profoundly impacted by this messaging. By the time we're 3 years old, we have formulated a lot of self-beliefs around our lovability, our worthiness, our deservedness, what we can expect in terms of getting our deeper needs met. All of those beliefs that sort of crystallize by age 3 become filters and continue to crystallize until we're about 7 or 8, become filters like a lens to a pair of glasses through which we see our life through, and through which we then make our decisions about money. Okay, so, and about many other things. But we formulated these beliefs about our worth, which profoundly convert, particularly for women. Women convert messaging about money into personal beliefs about our worthiness. And then we begin making all our decisions about our businesses and our relationships and our lives based on that, which produce certain results in the form of money, love, and many other things. And we don't understand why we keep getting the same results. Really important. So in the work that I do with people, we have to dig deep and go back into that messaging and excavate it, and really liberate ourselves from these, from being hostages to prisons of imprisoning beliefs that were never our own to begin with. So the way that we do money tends to be the way that we do everything. And so I always say to people, our relationship with money is actually is about a lot more than money. And when I see my clients hyper-focusing on money alone in their attempt to heal or empower their relationship with money, they're usually not successful to creating sustainable change, because a tremendous amount, as I just said, I'm going to kind of say it again, can't say too much about this, goes back to our experience of personal worthiness, our connection to self-love, our connection to all things having to do with personal worth and personal value, right? So if I were to say our relationship to money has everything to do with how we give and receive to ourselves and others, what we value and invest in, what we believe we deserve, what we believe we have permission to hope to receive or create, and even, the way we show up in our love relationships. I could interchange the word money with love for all of those bullets I just went through, and everything I said would still make sense. So I hope you're getting the bigger picture here. So the other piece that's really crucial here is that right now in this particular point in time, during this particular massive transformation, and I'm going to choose to call it, transformation rather than a crisis that our world and that we personally, macrocosm and microcosm, are going through right now. A whole new set of what I'm going to call success shadows are showing up right now. So this is a whole other workshop really, but I couldn't help but bring a little bit of it in here because it's so pertinent in this point in time. When I talk about success shadows, you've probably heard other people refer to them as money shadows, maybe some other languaging as well. What I'm talking about when I'm talking about success shadows are beliefs that sabotage our success that we're not always conscious of, that we don't always know are kind of lingering. They're sort of transparent. They're just hanging out. They're so much a part of, what the sort of buzz in the background that we don't understand how much they're influencing us. And so we always want to shine a spotlight into those dark corners. Here are some potential success shadows that might be emerging for you that perhaps were not there before this massive transformation we entered, transformative time that we entered. I'm hearing a lot of people feeling afraid to charge for their services. They feel guilty charging for their services because some people are experiencing financial hardship. Other people are experiencing a new level. Another success shadow is, I'm going to call it extreme risk aversion, meaning that they may have some resources, but they suddenly are terrified to spend anything on anything. And so rather than fueling the gift of this profound transformational portal that has become available to us, they are freezing up in fear and crystallizing in fear of their future. And so they've decided they don't trust money anymore because they don't trust the economy. That's another success shadow showing up. And there are I could give you a list a mile long. There's a whole host of new shadows showing up in this particular point in time that time of wild change that we're navigating right now, that we need to become really mindful of so that we can again use this amazing powerhouse moment that we are living in to actualize a whole new level of existence really for ourselves and for others, a whole new level of being and of our potential and of really being able to step into our own unique light and be that for others and for the world, become the authorities, become the leaders that we were absolutely born to be. This is our moment. Our number is up. So the next point I want to make before I dive into my own story a little bit and then right into the archetypes is that another pitfall that we experience in our journey many women do in their journey to empowering their relationship to money is that we are taught by a lot of sources that there's sort of a one way to do this kind of an approach, right? This is sort of a one size fits all correction process. I know for myself that never worked. I tried, to be my mother. I tried to be, my friends who were more frugal than me. I tried to be, other people who seemed to have a different relationship to money than I did. And it never worked. It was never sustainable. And in fact, left me feeling more like a failure than I did to begin with, because it was like square peg and round hole. I didn't understand my money gifts and strengths and my money blind spots. And we all have unique gifts and strengths. Nobody is exempt from the gifts. We all have our own unique blind spots. So there is so this whole idea of following somebody else's long list of shoulds just doesn't work typically. And so for myself, I was brought up by a very restrictive, denying kind of mother. She was a real no mother. Her response to every desire and request that I had was no. And, I was asked, did I want it or did I need it, right? So I quickly learned at a very young age that, wanting anything was absolutely taboo. Wanting was not okay. If I desperately needed something, maybe it was okay. But wanting something, so I had a very, very distorted, very confused relationship to desire as I grew up, right? I didn't think I deserved anything. And so fast forward many, many years, I found myself newly divorced with fantastic credit, a whole bunch of credit cards that had never been touched. And I discovered the art of shopping to fill a void, right? Because my mother had passed quite young. And I found myself without anybody there to slap my hand. And so it was like turned into this incredibly exhilarating experience of feeling deep nurturance and deep love every time I purchased something, whether I could, beautiful, whether I could afford it or not. And so it was really tough to give this up, right? Because I was experiencing the emotions that we all long for, and I was experiencing the emotions I wanted to experience with my mother, but didn't, my entire life when I bought something, beautiful. I was very visual. I was very artistic, and I, still am. So I've always loved visual beauty, and, that was always denied. And so when I had this, free reign, it was an absolutely fulfilling, it was a real high for me. After a few years, of course, I began to create debt. You probably guessed that, right? And with that came shame, with the exhilaration and the love and nurturance, then the other side of the coin started to happen. And I began to experience self-loathing and terrible shame and regret. And I didn't know how to stop this good girl, bad girl pendulum that was swinging just viciously. And so that's when I tried all these, practical tips and tools. And again, there are many great ones out there. And I would, get on the bandwagon for a little while and then I'd fall off again. And so this was just this terrible cycle. Long story short, there's a lot more detail, of course, but long story short, what happened for me was that in my journey becoming an entrepreneur, I realized I had to heal this money story of mine. And so in my search to do that, I bumped into this wonderful money archetype work. And I saw this as a deeper pathway into my psyche. And so I studied it for myself at first, and I had the most profound breakthroughs of my life. And so after, many years ago, after receiving many other credentials and licenses, coaching credentials and licenses, I became licensed in this work as well. And it has become a cornerstone of my business and something that all of my female clients value and couples also value greatly. So, and I've had amazing results from. So in my case, what I learned was that my particular money archetypal profile was radically different from my mother's, and that, my love of beauty and my love of actually of luxury and of really beautiful, fine things is part of my nature. And that expressing that in a balanced way is part of how I actually, is part of the sort of pathway or the vehicle to how I shine my brightest light. And so suppressing that was really kind of just killing my spirit. Once I understood this, and I understood many other things, each of our profiles has many different aspects and complexity. Once I understood my profile, and I was also a real strong relationship person rather than a numbers person. So I had a profound breakthrough, and that was a deep experience of self-forgiveness. It was really visceral, and I'll never forget it. It was one of the most meaningful breakthroughs of my life because I had struggled to get there for so long. And so in this deep, spontaneous experience of self-forgiveness, I just released myself from the prison and the chains I had wrapped around myself, trying to sort of, again, please my mother or be my mother in relationship to my worth and money and all of those things. What happened was the very next time I went shopping, I'm not somebody who, preaches instantaneous, change forever, but in this case, it actually happened for me this way. The very next time I went shopping, I was looking at something beautiful, once again, beyond my means. And in the past, the only way that I would feel this love and nurturance is if I actually bought it. This time, after I had the experience of forgiveness, I heard the words as I was considering purchasing it. I heard the words, "I'm enough," reverberate from deep inside of me again. And in that moment, I felt a whole kind of energetic reconfiguration happen internally. And I aligned with my means, and I felt the exact reverse of what had always happened occur. By choosing not to buy the item that I couldn't afford, I actually experienced this profound explosion of love and nurturance and fulfillment occur within myself. So that was just an amazing experience, the exact reverse. And from that point on, it really has always remained that way. I gained access to a place within my own body, within my own soul, that understands exactly, how to align and how to remain true to a very balanced place that is aligned with my means. And that's where I experience the fullness now. So that was amazing, an amazing turnaround. Now I'm going to take you right down that path into your archetypes. And I know everybody's probably excited and waiting with bated breath for that. So I'm going to just start with the assumption that some people listening today may not totally know what an archetype is. Maybe some of you do, maybe some of you don't. So an archetype is a pattern of characteristics that consists of beliefs and gifts and challenges and dreams and all kinds of propensities that exists in the deep collective unconscious. So if you're familiar with the work or even the name of the late great Swiss psychologist Carl Jung, all of his beautiful, deep, and amazingly transformative work was based on archetypes. There are probably thousands of archetypes in mythology, but in this particular system, there are 8 money archetypes that we're using to work with our relationship to money. So if you have taken the quiz and you have your results handy, this will be especially rich for you. If you haven't taken the quiz yet, I'll remind you that the URL is in the chat section of this video. If you're watching on Facebook, no worries. I'm going to put the URL for the quiz right near this video once it's posted. It's free. You can take it. You can flesh out your personality profile. So no worries if you didn't get to take it before this training. And so yeah, I'm just thinking if there's anything I'm forgetting to tell you in terms of how to get to the different locations. I don't think so. I'm going to put the URLs all over the place. So if you've got your results with you at the moment, then as I talk through the 8 money archetypes, you want to listen for today. We're going to only be able to talk about your persona today. We won't be able to talk about your money shadows today. Every profile will show shadows as well. We won't be able to get there, but I'm going to talk. So when you hear me talk about each archetype, if this archetype is your lead, meaning your top score, it's going to be especially relevant for you. So listen for the archetype that's your very top one. You can also listen for any of the archetypes that are in your top 3. They're going to be significant for you. But the one that speaks to your top score is going to be the most significant. So you want to make sure you pay special attention to what I say about that one. Okay, so I'm going to start with ruler. The ruler archetype is one of the 3 leadership archetypes in this system. The 3 leadership archetypes in this system are ruler, celebrity, and maverick. If ruler is your lead archetype, that means that you have a lot of natural business acumen. That means that you've got a lot of potential to be really innovative. You're probably just naturally kind of a good business person. You're somebody who might even be drawn or excited about building, like multiple businesses, or even, some kind of an empire where you have a lot of employees, and you're supporting a lot of people, and you've just got a really robust business happening. You don't necessarily have to go that way, but this tells us that you're a really hard worker, and that business is kind of your cup of tea. The challenge, and so there's sort of a soul lesson with each of these. And so the challenge for ruler is that you tend to be overly identified with your material and financial success. What I mean by that is that you identify with your achievements and your success as a business person. So when things may not be going so well, you take it personally, and you may feel your self-esteem may go down the tubes. It also means that you tend to overwork, that you might work yourself right into the ground, and that behavior may be driven by a lack of connection to your innate worth independent of your achievements, that you're sort of covering up for maybe low self-esteem and that sort of thing. One of the key lessons for ruler is to understand that you probably can be successful doing just about anything that you want, and that by midlife, if you're not doing, even if you're successful, if you're not doing your soul work, something that really feeds you, you're going to probably start to feel like you're burning out, and you're going to probably doubt that you can actually make the money that you've made in whatever else you've done doing your soul work. And you probably can. If you're a ruler, you probably can do pretty well doing just about anything that you want to be doing to make your money. Okay. I'm going to move right on to celebrity. Celebrity is another one of the three, as I said, ruler. I mean, I'm starting with the three leadership archetypes. They're no better than any of the other archetypes. No archetype is better to have than any other archetype. They all have gifts and strengths, and they all have challenges and blind spots. So the next one I'm talking about is celebrity. That's another leadership archetype. It's a completely different leadership kind of persona than ruler. So celebrity is the leadership archetype that might like to be on a stage, that might really love to, and not necessarily, so you don't need to take my comments literally. You can think about how they might apply to you, according to what makes sense in your life or your business. But some of you probably will identify with being on a stage, being in the limelight, really shining bright, being that kind of a really sparkling, effervescent, front and center, highly visible leader. Now, if you've got celebrity somewhere in your profile and you're not really leveraging visibility wherever you can, you are probably not fully expressed, and you're probably not, the portal to money flow that would come for someone like yourself through that kind of visibility is probably somewhat hindered. So celebrities, again, could be like a really, sparkling kind of spiritual teacher, spiritual leader, would be someone who has a beautiful appearance, loves beautiful clothes, looks good. Sometimes celebrities even look like they're doing better financially than they are, because they always appear, really together and just they look really good. So you can't tell, whether they have a lot of money or not. And so a celebrity, some of the challenges, so some of the gifts, some of the additional gifts of celebrity would be that they are comfortable with luxury, and so they stretch the paradigm on luxury for other people. Their very existence is very permission giving to other people to say yes to themselves. Yes, let's have the more expensive meal. Yes, let's get the massage. Yes, let's go on a beautiful trip or treat ourselves. They're what they embody and their very existence is a yes to all of that. So they also tend to, again, be good at attracting money. So both ruler and celebrity are pretty good at making money. Ruler is a little bit better at keeping it. Celebrity, may have issues with overspending, because the soul lesson and the sort of edge for celebrity is that when they don't feel fed on that soul level, when they're not really feeling that their spirit is fed, they're going to shop to fill a void, right? So celebrity is one of my top 3 archetypes, and that's what happened for me in the past. They're going to shop to fill that hole. They're going to look for beautiful things. When their spirit's fed, when they're doing what really gives them deeper meaning and joy, the whole, overspending things tends to fall away. So for celebrities, usually we find that at some point, if they don't have debt now, they had it at some point in their life, right? And so the lesson is celebrities do really well surrounding themselves by people who appreciate them for who they actually are, independent of their wealth, independent of what they're wearing, of their physical beauty, all that stuff. So they need to be around people who really love them for their essence. Going to move right on to Maverick. That's the 3rd leadership archetype. And again, I'm doing the 3 leaderships ones next to each other so you can distinguish between these 3 different types of leadership personas. So Maverick is a risk-taking leader, as you might imagine. Maverick says, I have some cool, unique, crazy ideas, and I'm going to try them anyway, even if nobody understands or really gets what I'm doing or even disagrees. Maverick, again, tends to be good at making money. They're fantastic with, they're good with financial complexity. They're actually good, with financially complex negotiations and deals. They're good with their own financial, they would be a fantastic somebody who might handle their own investments and do really well. They'd be fantastic in the stock market. They have that natural kind of acumen and aptitude. The downside, and they're also fantastic mentors. They love bringing other people up with them. They're bold, they're risk-taking, they like to teach others, they like to see those people that they mentor do well. Soul lesson downside, if we go to the other end, everything exists on a spectrum. If we go to the other end of the spectrum, a maverick out of balance could be a gambler, right? A maverick out of balance could be creating crazy highs and lows in their life and business and wreaking havoc in a relationship because, maybe their partner's not a maverick and can't tolerate that level of risk. So those are some of the challenges with a maverick because they love, they might be attracted to get rich quick schemes, for example. Not all mavericks are like this. Again, I want to make sure I make clear everything exists on a continuum. And so if you're hearing me talk about these archetypes at any given point in your life, including right now, or on any given day for that matter, you may fall in a different place on the continuum. So you want to just, make sure you're using the information that I'm sharing in a way that is truly relevant and feels true to you. Many mavericks never have any gambling propensities, for example. So, but I do know mavericks who are fantastic investors. And so the lesson for Maverick is to commit to creating some sort of a really stable bread and butter type income stream for themselves so that they can play with some risk and not have it kind of wreak so much havoc with their life. Yeah. Accumulator. So we're moving on to the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. I'm sorry, 5 here. So accumulator is next. And these don't go in any particular order. They're just the order that I'm sharing them with you. Accumulator, as you might imagine, is really good at saving money, really, really good. So loves to save money, loves to stockpile, knows where every penny is, probably checks their bank account every day, maybe multiple times. Very mindful with money. Money likes mindfulness. Money loves clarity. Accumulators have a match made in heaven with money. They love money, money loves them. They tend to have quite a bit of money because they save it all. A lot of this can be used in a very gifted kind of way. These are, not everybody has these gifts. Not everybody loves their numbers. Not everybody knows what they, loves tracking. Not everybody is a great saver. Accumulators are. They make fantastic bookkeepers, accountants, financial planners. Again, a good skill to have in your business. The challenge is that a lot of that fantastic money hygiene is fear-driven. And what we know is that the energy that we create with profoundly impacts what we create. So when you create from fear, you're going to create more fear. So for accumulator, even though, and so accumulator tends to hold really tight to what they have because of that fear. And so when they hold too tight, they actually underspend. They don't invest in fun. They don't invest in their businesses. They don't invest in their lives, their relationships. And life stays very, very small, or their business doesn't grow because they're just pinching every penny. And so nothing can expand, right? So the lesson for accumulator is to use that amazing relationship that they have with money to grow, to create more ease in their business and their life. And they can do that in many different ways. Growing it is one of them. But very often accumulators I work with actually need to be given permission to have more fun. And so I've worked with couples that really were just remarkable savers and actually came to me because they noticed other couples were having more fun than they were, and they just didn't understand what was happening. And they didn't understand because they were both accumulators. They were reinforcing the positive habits and they were reinforcing the fears and the shadows, as the blind spots as well. So moving on to nurturer now. The nurturer archetype, I see a lot of nurturer in the top 3 for a lot of, because I work mostly with women, I see a lot of nurturers or the nurturer archetype in the top 3. So if it's your lead archetype or maybe your second archetype, everything that I'm going to share with you right now is going to be important. So here's the deal with nurturer. You're amazing at sensing the potential in other people. You're super tuned in to other people's strengths. You love supporting other people. You'll be a fantastic coach. You'll be a great healer. You'll be a great teacher, maybe a great healthcare provider. People love to work for you. You're great at leading teams because you help people work in their strengths and their potentials and actualize their potentials. So you're really gifted in terms of helping other people become fully expressed and empowering them. As you can only imagine, the downside is that most nurturers are not so great at sponsoring themselves first, and this is really crucial. So there's a huge lesson usually for nurturers in learning how to, number one, not empower other people with money, because sometimes nurturers are giving away money as fast as it comes in to one thing or another, one person or another, and even to people that don't need it. And so there's a huge lesson in learning how to give to oneself more, how to really love oneself more, how to put oneself first. Sometimes with nurturers, when I work with a nurturer who's not in balance, even the word first is a trigger word for the nurturer. So it's crucial that nurturers understand, number one, how to empower other people without money, and there are many ways of doing that. Number two, how to begin gifting, using those amazing gifts that usually there's a lot of intuitive understanding of others, using that to more deeply understand and give to yourself. What happens for nurture, a lot of this, this generosity for nurture, again, when they're out of balance, can be driven by an unconscious belief that you're not enough, right? So for accumulator, the unconscious driver is there won't be enough for me. Money won't be there for me when I need it. For nurture, the unconscious driver is I'm not enough. I'll never be enough, so I'm going to overdo everything. What happens is nurturers become martyrs. They start to feel resentful, very depleted. None of that is very, flattering or attractive. And so that's the pitfall. That's the edge for nurturer, right? So true generosity is not a martyr. True generosity is not resentful. And so it's about, developing, one of the aspects of the true feminine is brutal self-honesty. And nurturers do tend to have a lot of feminine in their personality types. And so one of the most important things that I encourage people with a strong nurture to do is to become brutally self-honest about, what are they really wanting from all of this giving and what are they really wanting for themselves. So moving on to alchemist. Alchemist is let's see, some of the gifts, very humanitarian, has tremendous creativity, innate creativity, lots of really cool road less traveled type ideas, and also the will to execute. They have no problem initiating those really cool road less traveled ideas. And again, really want to see, are really drawn to, they might be an activist, for example. They're really drawn to just doing great work in the world that benefits other human beings or animals or other life. And so the challenge for alchemist becomes what is also innate for alchemist is this sort of love-hate relationship with money. And so the alchemist might harbor some of those old kind of beliefs that, we've maybe grew up with, some of us, that we heard, money is the root of all evil. The alchemist might be the one that says money shouldn't matter. Some of those comments I made earlier in the training today. So the alchemist has this, this conflict, right? Because they can't express, they can't have the impact that they long to without money, in this world at least, right? That's our form of exchange at this point in time. And so their hands are tied when they have this conflict around money, because they're sort of need it to do what they want to do, and they're pushing it away at the same time. And so it's crucial for somebody with a strong alchemist in their profile to reconcile this conflict in order to be able to fully express and do the amazing work that they're here to do. Sometimes I've noticed, I'm just going to make this connection, it's just kind of downloading for me right now. I didn't make it for some of the other archetypes. That's a whole, again, another, I do a lot of work with the intersection of money and love. And each of these archetypes has some propensities in love. I'm just going to share with the one with alchemist. Alchemist sometimes has difficulty with intimacy, and kind of, they're very much looking at the big picture and very committed to expressing their hearts in the form of dedication to a cause, but not always so comfortable with personal intimacy. So there's a learning, healing edge there as well. Connector, got two more to go here. Connector, and if you have to leave this training, know this, if you have to leave before I finish, this training, this recording will be posted in the Diamonds in the Darkness free Facebook group shortly after I complete this today. And excuse me, and for those listening to the recording way later, because this recording will be circulated, I'll be providing a multitude of ways for you to receive it as well. But it will always be in the Diamonds in the Darkness free Facebook group, so anybody can join that. Any woman can. It's a women's group. Anybody can join anytime. And particularly, this group is for female entrepreneurs and professionals, and this recording will be there. So, Connector. Connector is our people person, as you might imagine. And so Connector tends to love people and just really thrive in relationship. And doesn't mean they're necessarily an extrovert. Maybe they have a lot of really beautiful, deep one-on-one relationships. But people tend to be drawn to and like and want to support connectors, and they tend to really just have a lot of love for other human beings. So for Connector, a portal for money to be flowing into their world is through relationship. When connectors are not accessing the power of their network, when they're not asking other people in their world to support them, when they're not receiving the support of a coach or a mentor, when they're not asking other people for their good ideas to help them, they are keeping a portal to money shut. Connectors receive a lot of good fortune, including money flow, especially money flow through others, indirectly and directly. And so those are that's a gift, right? So there's a lot of just like serendipitous cool things that seem to happen to connectors, okay? I'm a connector, actually. I'll give you just a short story where, once I was reluctant to go to a training out west. I'm in upstate New York. I'm based in upstate New York, and many years ago, probably 7 years ago at this point, I wanted to attend a training by a business mentor in California. And it was like maybe the whole trip was maybe like $1,500 or something like that. And I didn't think I could afford it. But my friends and people around me encouraged me to do it. Just seemed like the right time. So I took that risk and I went. And at that training, that particular mentor offered and I thought, that was really a stretch for me, $1,500. And at that training, that mentor offered a $10,000 coaching program. And I just knew in my heart that I was meant to do it, that it was the right thing for me to do. So I committed my last $10,000 at that time that I had to my name, to this program all at once to avoid the finance charges. And I had a horrific dark night of the soul that night. It's like as if I had committed a crime. I just thought I'd completely lost my mind. But I knew in my heart and soul it was right. And that particular business mentor said, well, you're going to earn it all back. Don't worry, you're going to earn it all back. And I thought it was a sales ploy. I just didn't really, but I did trust that individual, or I would never have committed. I just thought it was right for me. Long story short, I got on the plane the very next day to fly all the way back across the country. And I was just trying to take a nap, and the complete stranger sitting in the assigned seat next to me on the flight by the time we landed was from my hometown, mind you. Okay, flying from San Diego to upstate New York. She happened to be from my hometown. And by the time we landed, she had hired me for $5,000 and completely committed to it. And then within 2 weeks of getting back, she sent me somebody else whose company paid me another $5,000. And it was like that. And so it just was like this kind of, these wild serendipitous, kind of what seemed like miracles. They can happen for anybody, and they do happen for everybody when you are aligned, when you're taking risks, when you're stepping it up, when you're opening. Life can only harmonize with your frequency, and that was a case of what was happening there. But connectors tend to have a lot of that kind of serendipity for some reason. So maybe if you're a connector, you relate. Romantic is the last one. Oh, so the downside of connector, sorry, the downside of connector. There is definitely a downside to each of these archetypes. And so the blind spot for connector is that we don't like to look at our numbers. We have almost a childlike, we would rather that anybody else deal with our finances than us. We don't really want to pay attention. It feels like a burden. It's not our cup of tea. We're not good with numbers usually. What can happen is we're ignoring our numbers, right? So money doesn't like that, because money likes clarity, as I said. So what needs to happen for connector, and so connector makes silly mistakes for this reason. Like they might have plenty of money in the bank, but they overdraw on an account because they didn't put the money in the right account because they didn't look at their bank account, or this type of thing. Or they end up with all these fees they could have avoided. So the lesson for connector, what needs to happen for connector is that connector is never going to be the bookkeeper. They're never going to be the accountant, and they don't need to try to be. Two things need to happen for connector. One, they need to have a great accountant and or bookkeeper. They need to really outsource and get the support that they need so that that is attended to. But they also need to find a way that their unique way to make paying attention to their numbers empowering and clarifying and fun for them. It's really important that they don't completely abandon their attention, their ability to attend to their own numbers. The moment they look at their numbers, usually initially for a connector, it's a little bit of a bitter pill because it's been ignored. But the moment that they do, there's such power and clarity that they begin immediately to be making different decisions. They start to see things differently. And it truly is very empowering. I can speak from experience. And so for me, it took me years to find my own way of working with money. I have a way of managing my own money now that is actually fun for me, that I enjoy. I never thought those words would come out of my mouth, but that I actually really do enjoy. So, and look forward to, and that I'm very effective with. And so we find that for each connector, we find their way. Romantic is the last one, and then I'm going to just close with a couple of important shares. So if you're still with me, please hang in if you can. So romantic is someone who loves to have fun, just really, really loves to have fun. And you're kind of a joie de vivre type of spirit. It's like, no, like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go away for the day, go away for the weekend, go to the expensive restaurant. They're good for the economy. They're good at saying yes to themselves. They're good at enjoying life. And these are beautiful characteristics. When their spirit is not fed, similar to celebrity, but a little different. Celebrity has a great need to feel appreciated. Romantic has a need for spirit feeding activity. When their spirit is not fed, they will overspend, similar to celebrity. So for romantic, there's a big lesson in like, how can you enjoy a beautiful day that really feeds you, that inspires you and lights you up, that does not involve spending money? That's a big one for romantic. to pay attention to. And so that's a big part of this. The soul lesson is kind of understanding that they can be deeply fed um, without it having to do with always having to do with spending and that with things that cost money. Okay. Romantic, again, in their business, in terms of gifts, would be somebody who would probably, might be somebody who would include really fun features in their retreats, or just, bring a lot of variety to their programs and stuff like that. And so there's just this spirit of playfulness and joy that they bring to everything, and that's a beautiful thing. So I hope this has been fun and interesting and really enlightening for you. There's so much more to understand about each of these archetypes individually, but your particular profile, because we didn't even get to the shadow, how we understand your shadow and how your shadow plays out in direct polarity, and in a very can be accessed in a very complementary way to your persona, to your lead. So I just wanted to, on that note, tell you that there is a great complexity and depth in this. If you're interested in learning more, please contact me directly. Just email me at michelle@michelleatlas.com. It's that simple. Just shoot me an email or private message me on Facebook. But my email is michelle@michelleatlas.com, or you can go to my website, which is michelleatlas.com. Very easy. And you can find out how to get to me there. And I can give you some options. The two pieces of wisdom that I want to leave you with before we say goodbye today, I'm going to open it up for Q&A in just a moment too, and see if I can do a little bit of that before we say goodbye. But I want to close with two key pieces of wisdom. The first is that, and I've been telling this to all my clients, is that one of the most core powerful elements to being resilient during wildly changing times is understanding that your success is not dependent upon external circumstances. Your success is not dependent upon this economy. Your success is not dependent upon external circumstances, the politics, the economy, any of that. You are resourceful and completely capable of creating your own economy and of being quite successful right inside of this storm that we're in. And so know that. Number two, the dissolution, deconstruction of your ordinary, of your normal, is making way, is clearing the field for your extraordinary, so that you can actually live as the light that you were always intended to be. Right? This field is wide open right now, and we're all in a beautiful reconfiguring process. And this is about you really showing up and sort of dropping whatever's been in the way of you showing up in what you were made to be here for. So on that note, I am going to open this up and just see if anybody has any questions, and I am not seeing any right now. So I am going to say goodbye for the moment, and thank you so much for being with me today. Lots and lots of love, and I hope to cross paths with you very soon. Again, feel free to email me at michelle@michelleatlas.com. Take care. Lots of love. Bye-bye.